serve, not sell, to become known as the top agent. And what every agent should be doing right now, whether they're a brand new agent or a top producer, to maintain top producing status, and even then some, or to, as a new agent, dominate top producer.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today's show, we are going virtually with one of the top real estate coaches in the United States. This former teacher sold 69 homes her first year as a solo agent. She has done as many as 160 plus homes with just an assistant and a transaction coordinator. She is now a digital marketing coach, speaker. She has been recognized as one of the top 100 agents nationwide by Wall Street Journal. This dynamic agent, author, and coach is the owner of Homes by Krista and Krista Mashore Coaching. Let's welcome Krista Mashore to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me, Tracy. I appreciate it. This is awesome.
Thank you. And as I was talking pre-show, I was really digging in, and obviously I started preparing my questions a few days ago, and it was great just to go. I mean, your Instagram, and anyone listening right now needs to go on Krista's Instagram. Obviously you've been doing it a while. A lot of people like to be as good as you are, but I could just simply go through each of those panels in each of your clips, and you're talking about a specific subject, and I could come up with questions coming at it. And it's so anyone watching or listening really gets some great advice on your Instagram.
Thank you. My goal is to try to do more on Instagram and TikTok like every day. So I'm focusing on that right now.
Now, I was watching you. You went live this morning from your bathroom cosmetic counter.
Yep.
You could call it that. And that you were talking about getting on every day, more or less, if I recall from this morning, pretty much you try to be top of mind. Is that what your goal is with that live show?
Yeah, my goal is just to offer as much value as I can on any channel that I'm going on. That's how I was a top 1% agent. I learned to become an expert marketer, and the way that I would market was through education and adding value. I call it serving, not selling, and that is exactly what I do in my coaching business as well. So we just give tips and tricks and help people. It's a great way for an agent to stay top of mind. And the more consistent you are about it, the better. There's something called the parasocial relationship. And what that means is that research shows that because when we were younger, we used to watch the boob tube. Our brains we've been programmed to see somebody on the other side of the screen, and we kind of start to think that they're an authority. And you start to build a one-sided relationship with them, and you feel like you know them, and you start to trust them, and you like them. And so that's the whole idea behind producing content on a consistent basis, letting them see the real side of me, being as authentic as possible, and just really adding as much value as I can. Because if I can do that and I help people, then it's going to position me more as the authority, and people want to work with not only people that they like, and that they know, or they feel like they know, but also people that are more of an authority. So that's why I teach.
What I liked about it too. We had a great event here yesterday with some top producers talking about social media, from YouTube through all the other different platforms. And the one thing I noticed, you put yourself out there. Obviously, most women, they want to make sure they got the makeup on there correctly. They got, and you're putting on your makeup while you're doing this right in your own house. And the authenticity of that, and just being vulnerable and you being you. I said, if anyone, obviously follows Krista, she'll put on her live show. Obviously you're on the West Coast, so it's later in the morning here, but you're putting yourself out there and being real, really backing up what you're obviously coaching and saying.
And that's something that people tell me more than anything, like, we like you because you're normal and you're real. I don't do it for that reason in the morning. I do it for that reason in the morning because I'm trying to create a habit. And research shows, like, when you have an anchor, something that you do before something else, the habit will most likely stick. So I've got to put my makeup on every day, right? And I like to do it early so that I'm prepared for whatever happens. And so it's just the perfect time for me to hit record as I'm getting ready, and it forces me to do it. My goal is to do it at least 3 times a week. I've been doing it closer to 5, but one of my coaches told me 5 years ago, he said, Krista, you've got to post every single day. And I didn't do it. And I wish I would have, because my reach and my amount of impact would have been, 500x had I listened. Yeah, exactly.
At this point, you had a quote here. I stole this. I don't know if this was on your website or whatever. And I was going through all your different materials. And when you do what you love, people love what you do. Where'd you come up with that?
That was my real estate slogan from years when I first started. I hired a branding coach, and they just kind of interviewed me about, who I am and what's important to me. I believe when you do what you love, people love what you do. So that was on everything, everywhere, all the time. And it's true. It's like when you work with someone who enjoys what they're doing, it's so much easier. Like, you're going to love what they do. So that's one of my taglines.
Yeah. I want to get into that start, but I picked up I think it was in chapter 4, which is where I pretty much finished up here today with Stop, Snap, and Switch, which is one of your books. If you want to just tell us a little bit of, what the audience, what that's about. But the quote I got out of there, which is a classic, and I think, the meaning in the first 4 chapters, like you're saying, being positive and getting rid of the negativity. But the line I loved was, failure is better than regretting.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Tell me a little bit, you've had, when we look back, you've had a tremendous career, and you're going even further, right? You're constantly looking to grow in your coaching and in the real estate agents you're influencing. But when we go back to tailor into when you first started, if I got your LinkedIn correctly, it was around 2006. You got started in real estate. Is that correct?
I got 2001.
2001.
Yeah, 2001.
No. Okay. So, looking back then to where you're at now, did you even have, the mindset you talk about in the book? Then what was your mindset like at the beginning? And then have any vision whatsoever where you're at now?
It's such a great question. So I think I might need to tell a little bit about my story here.
Mm-hmm.
And I've written 5 best-selling books. One of them is, Stop, Snap, and Switch, Train Your Brain to Unleash Your Limitless Life. And it's basically all about mindset, which would be a great book for real estate agents to read, because I believe that mindset is more important than skill set. But I also wrote a book, Sell 100 Homes a Year, because I've done that every year in the industry, pretty much. And so when I first got into the real estate business, I did it kind of by default. So my daughter got sick. I was a teacher. I taught 3rd grade for 6 years. I have a master's degree in curriculum and instruction. I wanted to become a principal. Well, my youngest daughter got sick and she almost died. And so they told me that she probably wasn't going to make it. And that if she did, she was going to have major hurdles to go through. So I ended up leaving my full-time teaching job to be a stay-at-home mom to take care of Kaylee. And I thought I'd get into real estate to play real estate so I could mostly focus on being a stay-at-home mom.
Free time, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought, right? So at the time, very quickly when I left my teaching job, we had just bought a brand new house. And I found out that my husband at the time was having an affair. And within just a few weeks, his new girlfriend was picking up my daughter. She was driving my car, believe it or not. It was Thanksgiving Day. And I just remember feeling just so miserable and sad and quite frankly, just feeling like I'm not good enough. And, why would he do this to me again? Because it had me before. And I realized that I had to just make a choice, which was I had to figure it out, because when he left, he also drained our bank accounts and we had just got a brand new home. So I went from needing to play real estate to having to keep my daughter's, household over their head. So I did not have the best mindset. I mean, my family was ripped apart. I lost 30 pounds. And I would put on a smile every day and I'd go out there and I'd work, but then I'd get home and I'd just feel the loss of the family and the pressures and all that. But I ended up selling 69 homes my first year in real estate, all of which were buyers. And I realized very quickly, buyers was not the way to have it work. So I started trying to focus more on sellers. And I did amazing. Like I said, my best year was 169 homes. And the reason I did so well was because I had to. It was I had to keep my daughters in that house. And the reason that was so important to me was because I hadn't lived at home since I was 13. I was in group homes and foster homes and juvenile hall and all that good stuff since I was 13. So it was very important to me that I keep my daughter safe. And that's why I wrote the book, Stop, Step, and Switch, because there was a time in my life that I really had to focus on my mindset because of the physical abuse that I had endured as a child. And I realized that if I didn't get that in check, my life could either go one of two ways. I could, most foster kids end up on drugs, they end up homeless, that less than 1% of foster kids go to college because they're when I turned 18, they said, you gotta go. I was kind of thrown on the streets with nothing, quite frankly. So I had to make a choice at one point, I'm going to make this work. So I decided that I was just going to be a fighter and I was going to work on being the best possible version of myself, which is, I have years to go and it'll never stop doing that. And so the Stop, Step, and Switch book was more of a passion project because I really have learned how to train my brain to work for me. And I'm very, very, very successful, not just money wise, which, I'm a multimillionaire, but I'm happy and I've got a great marriage and I like who I am. And it's because of the mindset work. So
let me,
I think I'm going to,
I know you follow Tony Robbins and others, based on some of the stuff, just hearing, your social media or in the book, you mention him, actually try to impersonate him in the book on the Audible. But anyway,
I know I did. No, you're that. Yeah.
Yeah, chapter 4, I think it was somewhere late in chapter 4, you try to impersonate him. But anyway,
thank you for reading the book. I really appreciate that. You're so sweet. Thank you.
When do you come to I'm a little bit older than you. I'm 52, and we hear these things. And personal development's been in and out of my life. Different times I've purged it and so forth. And more lately, been on a regular, consistently reading books. Obviously, since I got into podcasts, I listen to other podcasts and so forth. But when do you come? I've had on the show many women who are stay-at-home moms in similar situation to you. All of a sudden, they're divorced, and now they got their own household, and they've got to be the breadwinner, like you, similar to you. And when do this mindset? Did you start listening to other people who picked up, or was that something you internally just figured out for yourself?
Oh no, I am an avid learner. Like, I'm pretty weird about it actually. Like, my hobby is learning. Like, I've spent over $1 million in the past 5 years, like hiring professionals and coaches and consultants to be the best version of myself that I can. I've listened to so many podcasts, listened to so many audiobooks, read so many books. And it's funny because when you do that a lot, it just starts to become more of a part of who you are. And so I've learned to train myself for it to become just a part of me. Mm-hmm. And, when I first got into coaching, I was like teaching people, giving them all the tactics, right? Here's how you do a funnel, and here's my listing process, and here's how you do a Facebook ad. And I realized that they weren't getting the success as quickly as I'd wanted to. And I thought what they needed was just all the tactics, and they weren't going to be happy unless they had the tactics. Now, I still give that to them, but I spend an enormous amount of time on their mindset, really training them to be the best version of themselves, to think positive, to expect good results, to visualize what they're doing. And once I did that, they started to get results faster. And then they were able to utilize all the tactics and the strategies that I was giving them because they had the mind right. And so, when I say mindset's more important than skill set, I mean it all the time. Like, people will come to me and say, tell me how you sold, how do I build a funnel and how do I do this? It's like, we're getting there. First, we're going to work on this. And, sometimes it's hard for the type A personalities like myself. I'm a type A. Like, I want everything, give it to me now. But I have to remind them, and they listen, and things work out much better. So it's just
with the people that are coming to you, you're when I hate to use the word average, but the typical person, typical real estate agent. I think you work with you've mentioned loan officers as well in some of your stuff. Like you said, the mindset, is it because some of the stuff that maybe you're doing, and of course you've had a success and perfected it, that now you're giving them this, this perfect sword, right? This, and now you're handing it to them or trying to hand it to them and realize they don't even know how to hold on to the handle. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. That's exactly right. That's true. So, but it's funny because I have like brand new agents that come to me. I have middle of the road agents that are maybe selling 20, 30 homes a year. And I have agents that are like selling 100 homes that come to me, and we help all of them. And, it's so funny because real estate can be the most lucrative business. And like, if agents and lenders would just take the time to really, really learn how to master their craft and how to not just be a commodity. Every agent is taught to do the same thing. Open houses, cold calling, door knocking, right? And we were taught to do broker's tour. We were taught to do all those kind of things because we didn't have technology. We didn't have social media. We didn't have a video. And so it's such, like, I know dentists that don't even make $100,000 a year. I have a really good friend who is an anesthesiologist, makes around $500,000 a year. Doctors and attorneys, like, there's a ceiling on what they can make, and then there's not with real estate. My best month in real estate, I sold 26 homes in 1 month, and my commission was over $360,000 in a month. And as a teacher, I only made $60,000 a year. But the only reason I was able to do that was because I positioned myself as completely different and unique than my competitors, right? So like when people would see me, there was nothing to really compare me to because I was doing things so completely different and then validating as to why I was doing it. Why was I positioning myself that way? I call it winning before you arrive. I would win before I even walked through the front door because people already knew me. I showed up as a leader. I was different. I was innovative, and I was completely contradicting what everybody else was saying. So therefore, like they couldn't even really compare me, if that makes sense. And I think any agent can learn
is that a position or an attitude that you took to be out of the box just because that's you? And you did that right out of the bat, or did it take a little bit to learn a little, get a little more comfortable? So 69 homes in the first year, you must have been out of the box a little.
Remember, Tracy, I had to because I was brand new home, $2 single mom, no money. I had to do it, right? So, and this is going to kind of date me, but I remember getting into the industry and thinking, how can I be different? And so like back then when people were doing, when they'd sell a house, right? I'm just going to give some examples of things I did. Number one, I invested money in myself to market myself. And so on a sign where everybody else was doing black and white, 1-page flyers, I would do 4-page colored brochures. You're talking 20 years ago. I'd spend the money making the brochures. I would go and get a CD and put 50 pictures on the CD and put the CD on the sign with my little label on it, right? I marketed at the movie theaters, and I hired a video guy, it was 11 years ago, but nobody was doing video 11 years ago. And I paid a guy like $6,000 to do like a little mini commercial of me. And I put that on the movie theaters. And so they would see me at the movie theaters doing a video. I marketed on Comcast, our local television. I did everything that I could that other industries were doing to be successful. And I put them into the real estate industry. Very similar to now. When the market switched in 2008, I was lucky enough to have short sales and foreclosures. I worked with like 13 different asset management companies and banks. I had nationwide area brokers, Wells Fargo, Wachovia, Green River Capital. I had the HUD account, the Freddie Mac account, and I sold foreclosures. Well, when the market got better, all of a sudden, all my foreclosures went away, and I went from selling 160 something homes down to 17. I was like, "What's going on?" What happened was that I hadn't been marketing. Nobody knew who I was. All the foreclosures stopped, and I realized at that point, Krista, how are you going to outlast this? Nobody knows who you are. And I made the decision to become a top marketer. And I also made the decision that any listing that I got, I was going to market the heck out of it and treat it like it was $1 million listing. And I did that. And I started, doing videos on all my properties, running Facebook ads, targeting the audiences, retargeting, doing community, interviewing community events, interviewing community professionals, doing videos and running ads behind it for all the local businesses. And next thing you know, back up over 100 homes. So the reason why most real estate agents have to fight for their commission, or quite frankly, the reason why commission even becomes a question, is because they are doing what everyone else is doing. They're a commodity. Right. And I say this with a lot of everyone, I'm just trying to help you. I want you to think about gas, cellular service, internet. You're looking for the cheapest option because they're all virtually the same. So, because it's commodity. If you want, when you as an agent can position yourself as different, right? Think about, what can I do to stand out? Think, what can I do to make sure that anytime somebody thinks about real estate or your local community or a certain neighborhood, they think about you. You can do that by not doing what everybody else is and by becoming a marketer, right? Like utilize marketing and innovation and add as much value as possible, right? Serve, not sell, to become known as the top agent. And this is how, and what every agent should be doing right now, whether they're a brand new agent or a top producer, to maintain top producing status, and even then some, or to, as a new agent, dominate top producer.
Right. How you've had coaches, but at what point, again, in your career, because I always like to listen, I always think good people who are listening is maybe someone thinking about becoming an agent, or I've got a lot of, younger agents, 2 to 3 years, in the business, maybe have hit a lid, never really got started off on any fireball like you did, that are watching and hoping to pick up tips from my top producers that I have on. Some of my top producers, they hired a coach right away because they came from corporate America and they understood that. When did you start, or who was some of your first mentors, or when did you start actually paying for a coach?
I was probably around 6 or 7 years into it. I did a lot of online research myself. And this is going to sound kind of conceited, but as an agent, I found a really hard time to find another coaching company that taught real estate that was more experienced than I was. So I say that with total respect for other coaches. That's not the case though when I went into the coaching industry. When I went into the coaching industry, I realized, man, I need help from someone who's done the thing. And so I've invested, like I said, over $1 million learning how to master being a digital marketer and a coach. And I've hired some of the best people in the world, Russell Brunson, Alex Hormozy. I mean, I've hired all of them, right? Because I really wanted to gain their knowledge quickly. So I've been educating myself forever, but not the coaching, probably around 6 or 7 years. And I had a really hard time finding a real estate coach that did well. So I would go outside of the real estate industry to other businesses to help me become a better real estate agent and utilize the outside of the industry practices into mine is what I did. Like, for example, I hired a real estate coach. A Facebook ad specialist like 11 years ago. And he taught me how to run Facebook ads. Like nobody was even thinking about Facebook ads, but I thought if this is working in other industries, it can work in real estate. So I would hire coaches like that, business coaches, personal development coaches, and then bring it into the real estate industry.
Do you think you mentioned your success during the 2008, 2009, 10, the foreclosures and so forth, because you were actually going out of the box. And like you said, you were using marketing techniques and skills that other industries were using. So you were actually being that expert to those people who were in charge of those accounts that you were, those foreclosure accounts, like with Wells Fargo example.
Yeah. So what I did was I wrote a book on short sales and I wrote a book on foreclosures. And then I would send packages to the different asset management companies and banks to their foreclosure departments, like a big package that showed I put a package, a thing of socks on there and a thing of pop rocks. And I'd say, let me knock your socks off or let me pop your socks off, something like that. And I would put in there like my business plan and showing them that I had my BPO certification. I was a certified distressed property expert. I showed them the team that I had contractors. I had money in the bank to do the repairs. I got my BPO certification. I let them know that I know how to. And I just started sending those out like crazy until I landed my first one. My first one was Nationwide REO Brokers. Richard? I forget Richard's last name. Richard was the first person to hire me. And then he referred me to another one. And then once people know you're doing foreclosures, because it kind of starts to get known, then other places pick me up. So that's how I did it back then.
Mm-hmm. Hey folks, this episode was produced by Streamline Media, the #1 media company for helping brands generate content that converts. I knew I wanted to start a podcast to reach more people and bring value to the world, but I did not have the time or the knowledge. Streamline Media became my secret weapon to building my show. They handle all my back-end work, production, and strategies to keep my show going strong. If you're in the real estate business and looking to make content that generates more leads and brings in more revenue, check out the Streamline Media link in the show notes and discover how partnering up can supercharge your path to real estate excellence. What were, as a new agent, 69 home. I know
Let me actually
a lot of my top agent. What are some of your challenges? But even with 69 homes, I mean, like you said, you were mom kind of doing it part-time a little bit. All of a sudden you're thrown out there and you got to go pedal to the metal. What were some of the challenges you saw as an agent then? And then when you're coaching today, some of these agents, the challenges that you experienced early on that you're able to share with your coaching clients to help them through, and hopefully they don't have that challenge.
You know what I would, so can I kind of change the question a little bit? So if I was talking to any agent right now, and if they were to say, Krista, what would you suggest I can do to increase my business? Whether I'm a brand new agent or whether I'm somebody who's kind of doing middle of the road or whether I'm a top producer, what can I do to really, if I was to commit to doing it consistently, how can I have a different business 12 to 18 months from now? Now, here's a big part of the problem with most people is that you say 12 to 18 months and they're like, oh my God, I want it now. Well, that's not how any business works, right? So many businesses are actually in the red for years and years before they're ever
5
profitable.
years is often the
exactly
used. Yeah,
exactly. So, and time flies by so fast. So I would say and this is what I did when the market got better. So the market got better and I was, selling all these foreclosures and the market crashed. It got better. All my foreclosures and short sales, they all dried up, right? So I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to turn this around. So I remember going to a listing appointment and I didn't get the listing. And they said, Krista, we didn't hire you because you are a foreclosure person. The last I said you were a foreclosure queen. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am a foreclosure queen. So I thought I'm going to become the digital marketing queen. So this is what I would do if I were you as an agent. I don't care what level you're at. This will work for anyone. And I have proven this over and over again to other agents in any market. Okay. Is I want you to pick a community, pick a neighborhood. I want you to become what I call the community market leader of that neighborhood. Anytime somebody thinks about that neighborhood, you need to make it so it's impossible for them not to think about you. Well, how do you do that? Well, I want you to start creating as much content as possible about that neighborhood. What are the sizes of homes? What are the styles of homes? The price points of homes? I want you to do a neighborhood-specific market update every single 30 days. Send out using Every Door Direct stats for the past 30 days of what's active, pending, and sold. Take a QR code, put them on that paper, whether it's through Every Door Direct and it's postcards or whether it's in their mailbox. Take a QR code, drive it to a community-specific funnel, have that, and put on the card for your local Deer Ridge market update every month. Click on here. And then you're going to use Zoom or Loom. You're going to have a video of you talking about what's going on in the neighborhood. Then on that same page, this is what I do. I do this for 5 different neighborhoods. And I do one for a neighborhood buyer, one for a neighborhood seller. So if a seller calls me about listing his house in a certain neighborhood, I can say, great, before we meet, go to this, it's basically a glorified website, right? Go to this funnel. I send them there and it's all about their neighborhood. And then there's a local market update just of that neighborhood. Then I've got a 15-minute video that shows all the things that I do to market homes, which positions me as different. Then what I want you to do is, if there's a national update that you'd market update, which I do every month, put that on there. Put seller tips on there. Have a specific community related videos where you've interviewed local restaurants or you talk about things that are to do in the neighborhood, or you're educating people on what the HOA does or doesn't provide. I mean, that is what I did do way back in the day when things changed. I didn't use funnels back then because they didn't have funnels, but I created content all the time. I sent postcards. So now we do the same thing I did 10 years ago, but just with a digital twist on it. I'll tell you what, one of my students just yesterday was like, Krista, I got an $850,000 buyer. He said he never ever goes to anyone but the listing agent, but because I am the expert in the community, she had a little sign at the house, QR code directed right to her community neighborhood funnel, and boom, she got the listing or got the buyer. So it works. And it works for a couple of reasons, because you're developing a relationship with people. You're adding value to them. You're educating them. You're showing that you're the expert and the authority in the area. You're making sure you're top of mind, and you're serving, not selling, right? And the more you can serve and not sell, the more money you will make. So it's kind of like, again, people before things, and the things will come. So that would be my.
Let me dig in a little bit to that, because obviously,
yes.
I've heard you say this, and I'm totally on board from that standpoint. I imagine you have agents. I know there's agents. If anyone's listening to what you just said, the first thing they're going to be is like, oh my God, for me to build this website and all those things that you kind of rattled off there, which was probably not everything that you put on a website, but you don't have to start the website with it being perfect. Am I right?
Yes. And I love that you say that. So first of all, anything that's new that you're doing is going to be hard until it's not, right? The first time you rode a bike, like you've got to walk, you got to crawl before you can walk. You got to walk before you can run, right? You've got to wear poopy diapers before you can, use the potty. Like we all started somewhere and things seemed really hard. And it's hard until it's not. In the beginning, when you're learning something, it's going to be difficult, take more time, but then you can do it. But even if you just did a neighborhood market update every single month using Zoom or Loom, and you pull up the neighborhood comps and you do a 3-minute video, now that's going to be amazing. And you just send that every month to people. That's 100 times more than everybody else. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, well, I don't like doing video and video scares me. Nobody does. Like video, people are afraid to death to do video. We're afraid if we're going to make a mistake. Are they going to like us? Are we going to, we're afraid we have a big nose, or we have an accent, or we're not
Right.
smart enough. Number one, yes, you are. You can learn. When you go on a listing presentation, you can't put a bag over your head. That's what you look like. That's who you are, right? You're smart. You can learn things. You just have to be one step ahead and report back. It is the fastest way for you to dominate any industry, whether it's a real estate agent or a lender or a chiropractor or a dentist. is to become the community market leader of that field, right? Add value, produce content, make sure people are actually seeing it. How do you do that? Well, start, like when you do this, I'm telling you, I've seen it over and over again with my students. I've got over 1,000 students right now. I've helped thousands of students in the past, 5 years. This is what I teach them. Become the community market leader of your area. Become a marketer. Market using education, adding value. Make it so it's impossible for somebody not to think about you when they think about real estate. It's the whole reason why I wrote books, right? I write books because I want to educate people and add value. And then I want to bring them into my world, show them that I'm the expert. That's the whole reason why I teach my students how to write books, for their area. They when you do things like this and you're just being different than everybody else, that's how you're going to be able to dominate. So you just got to start. Like as many tools as you can keep adding to your toolbox, the better. And
now I've heard you mentioned funnels a lot of times. So I want you to dig in and gumpify that for us. Because I know there's some people going on that funnel is actually what, they really don't fully understand it. A lot of people, I wouldn't say a lot of people, because the few people that I know that are doing what you're talking about, like shooting the videos, are pretty much just kind of putting them on YouTube, which is great. They're searchable, but the power of leading them to that community XYZ website where you could start creating the funnel. Explain the power of that.
So the way to think of a funnel, and this is why a funnel is so much more advanced than a website, because when somebody goes to a website, you don't know why they're going there. Are they going there to, search homes? Are they going there to look at your testimonials? Are they looking at your recipes? Are they trying to, why are they there? You don't know. But when you drive traffic or people to a specific funnel for a specific reason. So for example, if I'm trying to go after sellers and I create a marketing campaign where I provide information and value targeting sellers, and as the sellers start to watch the content, I'm going to funnel them down, right? And I'm going to drive them to a specific funnel that talks about a specific thing, selling, just like the neighborhood. If I'm trying to dominate a certain neighborhood and a seller or a buyer calls me about a neighborhood, I'm going to send them to that neighborhood community funnel because it's positioning me as the authority. It's just specific to that neighborhood or to a buyer or to a seller. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And that's why it's so powerful. It's not a hard thing to do. I mean, there's so many, I have my own software and we have all the funnels done and people just change the colors and put their videos in. They're already done. It take them an hour or two, right? It's not hard. It used to be way harder. Think about the first time as an agent that you wrote up a contract. It took you 6 hours to write a contract. Now you can do it in 3 minutes, eating a sandwich and watching TV, right? Because you got better at it. It's just like anything else. So when you drive traffic or people to go to a funnel, you know exactly why they're there. And the deeper that they're digging and the more time they spend on it, which you can track that too, you're going to know how serious that person is. So for example, we will run ads on Facebook where we target sellers, and we'll target sellers by identifying a problem that sellers are having and speaking to that problem. When somebody watches that video, I can then say, okay, somebody watched this video. They watched 50% or more of it. Now I want you to send them to the next video on selling, right? They watch that one. Then I send them to my funnel. And now I'm like, hey, would you like a market update? Would you like me to give you a market analysis on your home? Well, they're much more likely to say yes to that and give me their contact information because I've already educated them on the process and I know who they are.
You've given them something.
Yes.
Give them a little education. That was your gift to them.
Exactly. And most people are trying to jump in bed before they've ever dated, right? You've got to date and flirt before you can go and get married and go to bed. Those marketers do the opposite. And so now, if somebody's going to give me their contact information and they already know who I am, and I know they're probably thinking of selling because they've asked for a home analysis, now I can follow that up with a very, very targeted plan to make sure that I get that appointment. So what does that look like? Well, I'm going to drop off a copy of my marketing plan. I'm going to drop off a copy of my book. I'm going to send them a 15-minute marketing video. I'm going to then email all those things to them as well. I'm going to do everything that I can to position myself as the authority and to win before I walk through the front door. You're going to win before you arrive. And so you're doing this because they're watching videos of you. You're educating them. They're getting to know you in the process. They're seeing you as the authority. Now you drop off all these things to them after. It's like, it's going to be impossible for you not to win, right? So that's the whole, that's the whole goal behind it.
Well, it was brought up, the great event we had here locally yesterday. And one of the, I had 3 of the 4 people had already been on the podcast. So I know their stories and their mindset, but they will all say when they've seen you on video, the credibility goes through the roof, influence goes through the roof, that when they actually do say, yeah, come out and let's talk about selling my home, it's not you trying to beat out somebody else. It's just you telling them what you're going to do. And I know one of the agents said they were ready because they watched my videos and other stuff, that literally when she walked in the door, they were ready to sign the contract. There really wasn't much of a discussion or a sales job.
Tracy, that is, I mean, I hear that hundreds of times. When you do it correctly, it's so true, because people are binge watching, right? And there's study after study that shows that the more somebody likes you, the more likely they're going to want to work with you. And when people are watching your content and you're educating them, they're developing a one-sided relationship. It's actually called a parasocial relationship. So like commission does not come up. It's like, where do I sign? One of my students just posted a thing. He's like, Krista, thank you so much. He's like, I just demonstrated winning before you arrived. You went on a listing presentation yesterday. And I asked them if they were interviewing any other agents, and they said, heck no, we watched all your videos. You're our guy. And, signed a $1 million listing. So it works. It works with luxury properties. It works with anything. But the reason why it doesn't work for most people is because they don't give it the time it takes. They're not consistent with it. You've got to be consistent and understand that people don't just all of a sudden one day wake up and say, I'm going to buy or sell. It's a process. So it might take a few months. It will take a few months for people to be seeing you over and over again. And then they'll start referring you, and you don't even know they're referring you. They're watching, you don't even know. And so after time, all of a sudden, it's like when they think about real estate, they're thinking about you because you're showing up wherever they're looking, right? You're on their news feeds, you're on their Facebook accounts, you're on their Instagram accounts, you're on their YouTube accounts. I will say though, do your best to make sure you're properly getting the video out there. That's the biggest mistake I see people making, is they only post organically and they're not paying for any ads. The quickest way to get the
tip a little bit into that, because I know you spoke earlier about hiring a Facebook advertising expert or coach. Tip a little bit of that. What should an agent, I think most of them are going, they don't know what to spend, right? Should they spend $100 or spend $1,000? What is a coach likely to, some insight on what that's like?
So most of my students, we actually teach people how to run Facebook ads. That's what I teach. I teach them how to create content, how to feel confident on camera, what to talk about, how to properly target people, and then how to run Facebook ad campaigns around all the content. And so they usually start off around $250 to $300 a month. And then what happens is they see the results. And so they want to quickly start adding to it as soon as they can afford to, because they see the results. And the reason why it works so well is because I will create a video that I have people watch before I meet with them, and it'll compare how I market my properties compared to Zillow. And I'll show them, look, at Zillow got 1,300 views. I had 280,000. This video on this house in your neighborhood got 700 hours of watch time. And I'll show them 5 or 10 different, houses that all look like that. And I show them that, hey, this is important, because the more exposure I can get to your property, the more eyes I can get on it for you, the more money you're going to make. And so not only does this help the seller when I'm running these market campaigns, but it also helps me because I'm also marketing myself at the same time. I'm being seen by the community at the same time. So it's really, really a win-win. And it becomes impossible to compare or to beat me, because no one else is talking about that, right? They're saying, hey, we're going to do open house. And I say why open houses don't work and how they're really ineffective and how they're dangerous and how this is a much better way because people are online. That's where they're going. So it's just,
expand a little bit on that. I can't remember. It was one of your Instagram reels. I think that's where I saw it, where you don't actually do open houses. You like to do the video. How do you present when you're doing an open house?
So if I was going to do an open house, I would do it a massive digital twist on it. But when I was an agent, the past 5 or 6 years, I didn't work weekends or I didn't work nights. I answered my phone, but that was about it, because I would tell people, listen, I know that you want me to do an open house, but less than 3% of homes nationwide, according to the National Association of Realtors, sell with open houses. An open house is going to help me because it's going to let me meet your neighbors. An open house is going to help me because if they're just in case there is a buyer that walks by, they're not going to be qualified, probably can't afford your house. And so it's not good for you. It's good for me. And so if people are telling you they're going to do open houses, they need to explain to you that. And number two, I'm going to buyers where buyers are looking. 98% of buyers start their home search online. Buyers know more about your property than you do in most cases, and definitely more than their agent. So my goal is to target your property to buyers where they're looking, which is online, give them all the information, give them a virtual walkthrough, and then I show them the results. It's like, look, here's the last 10 houses. Look at how many views we had. Look at how much watch time we had. Look at how many engagements, how many people liked, comment, and shared. I mean, we show them thousands. Look at Zillow, right? So what do you think's more valuable for you? For me to target people that were looking at homes 6 months ago that are probably more likely to look now, and target people right now that are looking online, or for me to do an open house. I want to market one to many, not just one to one. And I want to make sure that people I'm marketing to are actually qualified, right? So when you go through that process and you actually explain to people, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't want to do an open house anyways. It's such a pain in the butt. I'm like, I know, So just about educating people. And when you say it, because it's true, when you say it that way and no one else is saying that, again, it just elevates your authority, it elevates your status because you're calling out the white elephant in the room, which everyone knows about. And then I say, look, if you really want me to do an open house, I will do it, but here's how I'm going to do it differently than everybody else. And then I explain our digital location domination open house strategy, where we do a massive open house campaign. I won't get into it now, but it's very similar to the whole Facebook strategy, where we're targeting people, we're sending out content, we're driving the buyers to the funnel for the neighborhood where that house is on there. There's all these other things that we're doing to elevate us as being different.
Let's assume there's some people on, and I think obviously, I think most people don't understand the power of what, I know mentioned, I think it was in the book there, the stop, snap, and switch, where you're talking about master one, or it might have been in your Instagram, master one social media thing. And you really poured a lot of time and energy into understanding Facebook front and back. When you go to boost that or advertise, you've done all the videos, you've got the whole presentation ready to go. What are you telling Facebook to do when you're spending money? Because you can really, really direct that ad, can't you?
Yes. Don't boost. Boosting does not work. You want to be able to use the ads manager account to target your specific community. And then that gives you the ability to retarget. So what that means is I'm telling people, hey, Facebook, I want you to find, it used to be easier. Like Facebook has things like, they could tell when people were going to homeowner sites and things like that. They don't have that anymore, but you can say, I want you to target this radius and then show my video to these people, put my video in front of people that are more likely to engage with it, like, comment, or share. Put my video in front of people who are more likely to actually watch the video. Facebook has so much data and they track everything that we do. So, and it wants to work for you. When you're paying money, Facebook wants it to work because then they'll continue to pay. So things, okay.
Let me amplify that for you, make sure I understand, the audience understands. We obviously, in the old days, you did a mailer, right? You might have laid it out to an entire zip code. You're telling it that and more of where to send it, what age group it's going to go to.
Well, so the age group you can't do anymore because of HUD. So there's something called a special ad audience that now, because of, the age discrimination.
Over, I guess, is where someone who can actually buy a house is the only way.
Yes, exactly. So, so you're targeting people that live there. And then you can say, okay, find me, for the people that watched this video, Facebook, find me more people like that. It's called like a special ad audience. It's like a lookalike audience. And it'll find you more people that watch the first one because it knows it has all these data points it watches. Then you could say, okay, now for everyone that watched this video, send them the next video that's similar to the first on the same subject matter. And that's how I get people to raise their hand and request a market analysis, because I'm doing this whole strategy. And that's what I teach. It's fabulous, So again, it might seem complicated. It's just different. Once you learn it.
So simplify it for me here. I'm going to use that word again. Keep it simple, stupid is my phrase. So you're targeting this Facebook ad out there. It's going to the audience. We've got that fine tuned. You gave us great coaching and showed us how to do that. So how how is then connected to either create that to be an outgoing call for the agent? If it's some sort of, lead generation, are we directing them towards that funnel? What are we doing? What's the ad doing to actually or creating the actual person who's watching it a call to action?
So you know what I can do? How about this, Tracy?
Mhm.
I have a training. It's about an hour and 15 minutes long. It's a training that I showed people exactly how, from doing just what I told you, I was able to get 48 closed seller transactions in 12 months. I sold way more than that, but just from this one strategy, we closed 48 seller transactions. What I can do is I'll give it to you. You can put it in a link, which tells people exactly what to do.
Okay.
You identify a problem in the market, right? So I'll give you an example. For a while, sellers were afraid to sell because they were afraid they wouldn't be able to find a replacement property. That's not the problem right now. Right now, there's a little bit more.
It is here in Florida.
Is that not fair?
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, so if I say it's a great time to sell your house, it's bidding wars and multiple offers. Well, no doubt everybody knows that, right? I need to speak to the problem that sellers are having. So I'm going to create a video that says, are you thinking about selling your home, but you're afraid to sell because you're afraid you won't be able to find a replacement property? I totally understand. Do you know that last month alone, we helped 13 sellers just like you sell their home and find a replacement property? And here's how we did it. Boom, boom, boom. Now those sellers watch that video. I can tell how much time they watched it. And I can tell Facebook, great. The people that watched 50% or more of this video, send them another video educating the seller on things about the market. Then after they've watched those 2 videos, then I'm going to send them to a landing page where it says, hey, would you like an analysis on your property? If so, all I need is your name and phone number. And if you can give me more information like beds and baths and upgrades, I can give you more of an accurate analysis. And then they're like, yes, because of what I did step 1 and 2. Then they fill out the information. And then I start my process of dropping off my book, dropping off my marketing plan, letting them watch a 15-minute marketing video, sending seller testimonials, sending them examples of how I market my listings. And so I do this whole process. So this video that I'm going to share with you, it's called 48 Seller Transactions. I'll give that to you and they can be able to break it down. Would that be okay?
Yeah. No, sure. We'll definitely include in notes. Why you say that, I have a great title company here in town, and in their new headquarters, they built this nice classroom. And I've actually done a podcast in there, virtual one, with a group of agents. And I would really like to link you and Britt over there to, possibly, put a virtual class on there and bring some people in and lead into your coaching. I think you would agree with me from this standpoint. Analysis paralysis is one of, human beings' greatest challenges. And, you were rattling off the different things, but you have taken time and built those things that you're talking about, whether it's the website and I'm sure you probably go in there and tweak it or update the videos, every so often as well as things change. Or like you said, here in Florida, there is a challenge. We're not seeing a lot of the local moves from neighborhood to neighborhood, like within 20 miles where, obviously when interest rates were low, they were doing that a lot because people now are going, well, if I sell this house, what am I getting over there? Really? Am I getting much better? Am I moving up? Am I getting more square footage? And they're not. They're spending more money than they are where they're at. So they just stay still right now. So there is that kind of replacement type thing. And I've got other stories about that, but at another time. But when you're coaching, and I want you to, hopefully someone's listening, because I think your material is great. It's a lot of what these agents are talking about. And it's, from what I understand, not having obviously been coached by you, but it sounds like you've got it mapped out, that an agent can take it from zero to hero in a short period of time through your process, because you're doing it so often. You're tweaking it, and it is simple. Then you just are baby stepping them through. Am I right?
Yeah, and it definitely is work. In fact, I don't know. So every month we do a 3-day virtual event where we go through this. It's virtual. They can do it from their own home. We teach them how to create content, what content to create, like how to properly position it. We teach them this whole strategy. I can give you the link. I know my team had talked about it, that you could offer to your people. And it's for less than a couple cups of coffee. And if they don't get massive value, and if it doesn't totally help them, I'll give them their money back. We go into this process in great depth, at that training. So if they just go to KristaMashore.com/excellence, that's KristaMashore.com/excellence, they can sign up for that. And we're going to give them this and so much more. We'll be breaking it down like step by step on exactly what to do. It'll
do
be
that
very,
once a
very
month
helpful.
if I saw your material.
Once a month.
Once
Once a month. Yep.
I think you just did it, didn't you?
Well, the next one is May. It's just Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, but then we're doing it again. So the next one is May 15th, 16th, and 17th.
Okay.
And then we have another one in June. It's June 19th, 20th, and 21st.
Okay. All right. We definitely want to put that out there for one of the things you talk about in the book. And I don't know if we've got a hard stop here. If you've got another podcast, you got to jump on.
I have one in 4 minutes. I got 4 minutes.
I want 4 minutes. All right, so we'll finish up in 4 minutes. I'm looking at my clock here. I got 51 minutes right now. We're going to end at 55. Invest in yourself and tell us some of the things that you've done, maybe even not real estate related, investing in yourself that you've done, but obviously, taking these courses and invest in yourself. You talk about it in the book.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like I said, I spent over $1,165,000 in the past 5 years and 4 months in my own personal development and becoming an expert in my craft. Now, I know that might seem like a lot to a lot of people, and they probably think that maybe I'm even exaggerating. I'm not. I'm actually under exaggerating. I've actually spent more. I forget half the things that I do. But like Warren Buffett will say that the best hedge against inflation and a recession is investing in your own education, your own knowledge, because you can't take it with you. And that's going to help you outlast any recession. And I will say that it is, right now we do $1 million a month on average. We've averaged about 1.55 million a month. That's it's in contract collected. So think of it like if you were an agent, you were bringing in an average of $1.5 million a month commission. That is what putting $1 million plus in the past 5 years has helped me be able to do as a top 1% coach and digital marketer. But I never, ever, ever would have been able to get there had I not invested in my resources, my time, my energy in learning that. And so I always tell people, hard now. Successful people are willing to do right now what unsuccessful aren't willing to do later. So I'm willing to do right now what's hard so I don't have to do what everybody else has to do later. I'm doing it now, hard now or hard forever. You're going to pay the price either way. You're either going to pay the time now or you're going to pay it forever. You're either going to pay the price now or you're going to be paying the price forever not knowing how to do it. And I believe that more than anything else that I've said today. And I am so grateful that I've taken the chances and taken the risk and stuck it out and went through the hard times because we've done more in this past. And by the way, I'm 51. We're the same age, but so have a look on that, KristaMashore.com/excellence. We'll dive deep into it. I can show them. I actually have a list of all the people I've hired. And yeah, I need to add to it because it's even more than that now. Some bad investments, quite frankly, some good, but even bad ones, I at least learn 1 or 2 things. And it's really helped my business and life and productivity take off.
Well, I'd also imagine with your, success, you move into a different circle of people as well. And and some of the things you're now being exposed. That's why you're spending as much money. Because I don't know who said it, but I want to say the numbers like you should be spending about 3% of your income on developing yourself, personal development, education.
Oh yeah, I do that for sure. Yeah, I'm pretty freaky about it. Yeah, definitely. And remember, it's a who, not how. Dr. Ben Hardy wrote this book called Who, Not How with Dan Sullivan. I will tell you, there's so much to be said about who, not how. When you are around people who are going after the same things that you are, they're pushing you to do more. They're rooting for you. You're going to get there so much faster. And the sad thing in real estate is we don't have that. Like people are so afraid to share. They're like, I don't want to tell anybody. They're going to steal my secrets. And they're such non-abundant mindset when it comes to helping. And I think that's one of the hardest things about real estate. They're not taught how to be a real estate agent. They're not taught how to market. They're being taught old school tactics and techniques, and they don't have the support and the help. And that's why most agents fail. But Tracy, I have to go. It's my next one.
Hey, I'm going to send you an email. I got an idea and I want you to run it through, and if you can email me back. But I appreciate your time today. And I know anyone listening got a bunch out of it. So send me those links. I wish you the best.
Tracy, thank you so much. Okay, bye.
All right. You have a super day.
Have a great day. You too. Thank you for having me on here.
No problem. Thank you.